All right, and away we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our XR hardware and software platforms panel, the tech that powers the metaverse. Very excited to have our panel of speakers here today. Let's dive right in with introductions. Can you give us your name, your company one-liner? Yeah, and we'll go from there. Declan, would you like to start?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Declan. I am one of the founders of Hyperbeam, and Hyperbeam lets developers add flat apps and games to their 3D virtual worlds.
Awesome. And Jill?
Hi, I'm Jill Boyce. I'm the CEO and founder of Vermerse. And Vermerse makes it easy to create, share, and play 3D immersive video.
Awesome.
My name is Gijs Timpeter, one of the co-founders of SenseGlove and responsible for product development. And we at SenseGlove enable touch and virtual reality by making wearables that scale haptics into VR.
Awesome. I'm very excited to dive into that aspect of the hardware as well. And hello, everybody. I'm Jeremy. I'm founder and CEO of Venue, and we create metaverse conference experiences to help you solve business problems, whether that's helping you acquire customers, acquire investors, or engaging in advertising to your community. So let's dive right in with the first question here. I'd love to learn, this is a question for everybody, I'd love to learn a little bit more about if your tech was not originally designed for metaverse, what were the traditional use cases that you design your technology for? What's your origin story? And on top of that, what are the now XR and metaverse and Web3 use cases that you enable? And the last part of the question is, how do you plan to power more XR and metaverse use cases moving forward? Who wants to jump on that first?
I can start with a story of, actually the founding of SenseGlove. We started actually off as a robotics company building humanoid robots for rehabilitation purposes. So we've built a exoskeleton robot that could move someone's hand after an impairment of, for instance, a stroke. But obviously, medical is a really challenging, especially if you build active hardware for medical. It's a really challenging market. So I'm kind of a human computer designer from training. And once I tried VR in 2015, it was the old HTC headset. I immediately saw the link between, okay, we're building a robot that can let you feel virtual environments, and we have that stupid 2D interaction with the controllers in VR. So why not bring that together and build touch for VR? And that's actually when SenseGlove started, that moment of realization from, hey, we can combine those two technologies together.
And just a real brief follow-up, what are some of the use cases that you've seen people use the haptic feedback for? I understand the prior rehabilitation in health and how it can help people move. But yeah, I'm curious, just to name a few, we'll dive into more later as well.
Yeah, what we try to do at SenseGlove is try to make an interaction in VR that is similar to an interaction in real life. So if you want to train, manual labor or manual tasks, you can do that physically in the same way in the VR environment as you would do in real life. So it really gives you a real life situation in a digital environment.
Very cool. Awesome. I love to hear more origin stories. Who wants to go next?
I can go.
Yeah.
A little kind of origin story of even kind of how Vermerse was founded. I mean, I've been active in video compression and MPEG standardization for quite a long time, developing multiple different video coders, including H.264 and HEVC and AV1. But I was very involved in 360 video, which is 3 degree of freedom, where viewers can kind of look around with 3 degree of freedom. And in that work, we found that 3 degree of freedom wasn't enough. And 6 degree of freedom is really much better, because where you can actually change your position and, and have a motion parallax where the relative positions of objects changes. Something is blocking me. If I just do 360, I can't get around it. But yet I can actually, if I have 6 degree of freedom, I can actually move around an object. So before forming Vermerse, I was at Intel, and I was actually the lead editor of a new MPEG standard that's called the MPEG Immersive Video Standard, which was specifically developed to be able to compress and distribute 6 degree of freedom video. So Vermerse was formed to be able to kind of productize and, create solutions so that people could do the 6 degree of freedom video and have that ability to have it be, distributed, streamed, and played back. But our key thing is that we're enabling these creators to create the 3D immersive video and to share it with the others. And so it doesn't have to be inside a metaverse, but it can be, right? Because we have our own kind of standalone apps. But if you want to bring it within the metaverse, the key thing that it really brings is the ability to bring like real world, camera captured real world people, real scenes. So of course in the metaverse, it's all about 6 degree of freedom and being able to move around and choose your navigation, choose your position and angle. But it's generally a computer generated synthetic content. So what we're doing is enabling you to have this, real people, real objects that have been camera captured within a metaverse environment.
And I want to add on top of that, in the previous panel, we discussed how important it is the people are in the metaverse, the social experience. And I think applying people and social to being able to immerse yourself in 3D with a real life person. I would love to give a keynote and have my whole real life person, not just an avatar, here presented, and people can, walk around with 6 degrees of freedom and really understand what I'm trying to do. Maybe it's a demo, maybe it's a hardware demo, right? That I can use a full 3D space in real life, but put that in the metaverse and have it be captured by Vermerse. That's super, super cool. And Declan?
Yeah, so Hyperbeam originally started while all of the founders, including myself, were in college, and we were studying at the University of Waterloo, and we were doing co-op placements all around the world. And so while we were on co-op, we wanted a way to basically like hang out with our friends and watch stuff together, whether it was like shows or even just browse the web and go on Reddit together. So we built this cloud streaming technology that essentially streamed a web browser from a remote server to everyone that connected to it. And so we built this platform originally for ourselves, but we ended up launching it. We ended up getting it to 160,000 monthly active users. And unfortunately, the growth stagnated because we found that the primary customer segment that we were targeting was individuals in long distance relationships. And those people, after 6 months, either move in together and no longer need the platform, or they break up and no longer need the platform. So it was a fundamental issue with the customer segment we were targeting. So our retention was pretty bad after that 6-month mark. So we ended up getting into Y Combinator, and we were exploring different ideas to pivot to. And all of a sudden we had customers reach out. One was another watch party site that wanted to use this technology, and one was a remote learning application that wanted to use this technology for tutors and students. And they both wanted the cloud streaming tech. So we ended up selling to them, and we ended up going down this whole rabbit hole of use cases for this technology. And one of the use cases that has now emerged as being the most promising and really like getting the most value from this technology is embedding the cloud streaming browsers and applications into metaverses. Because really all of the most popular apps that people use right now exist outside of the metaverse. And so companies are spending months and sometimes even years integrating each app one by one and then building multiplayer functionality on top of that, whereas we just allow them to really embed any app they want with a single integration. So, yeah.
Very, very cool. And I'm sitting on this panel super, super biased because I'm looking at everything that y'all are working on, and I'm like, wow, we can use that, we can use that, we can use that. I want all of this for my metaverse. So to enable haptic and live sharing of demos, to enable holograms of speakers, the immersion of the people and the demos, and being able to exchange information and share like that. So yeah, I guess a real quick origin story for me is we started off making VR games and hosting conferences in real life in the San Francisco Bay Area. And one day we looked at where we got our sales. We got all of our sales from conferences and hosting conferences, but I couldn't host more than one conference a year because people have to budget a year in advance to book tickets, and negotiating rent for the venue was very difficult, huge hassle, 6 to 12 month effort, took a lot of money. But what if it was as simple as a click of a link? And we could bring everything that the world has to offer, and the people and the businesses and the work and the culture and art and entertainment, into the convenience of our own living room. So we first off started looking for other existing solutions out there. Nothing was built for the business conference use case. We're like, hey, we make VR games, we might as well, multiplayer VR games, we might as well make a multiplayer VR game that is for conferences. So that's how Venue got started. And then the pandemic hit, and then we accelerated like heck, and then we got into Y Combinator as well. So and so now we're hosting these conferences to build up our community, to solve business problems, help folks acquire customers, investors, and engage and advertise with the community. So I'm very excited to dive into each of the speakers' use cases, your customers' use cases, the projects you've been working on. I'd love to learn the science behind it. I'd love to learn the value prop and everything. I guess let's start with guys. Yeah, with the I'd love to learn dive into more who is using the haptic solutions. You mentioned there's training. I'm curious if since you've had experience in healthcare, if there's any projects going on there, but also for social entertainment as well. Yeah, could you guide us through that?
Yeah, so mainly our customers are indeed enterprise customers, also because of the price point of haptics at the moment. For a gloves, those are around $5,000 a piece. So it's not really, well, you have to be a very fanatic entertainment user to embed those gloves in at that price point. So really focusing at business to business sales. And then especially everywhere where there is physical assets that are too expensive or that are just not there to be trained on or to assess them whether they're designed very well. So that is like from oil to automotive to healthcare, all those sectors have very expensive assets where they need to train people on, but it's too expensive to withhold those assets from operation. And we at SenseGlove add the interaction level that is comparable to real life. So if you would do a training with our gloves, for instance, at one of our customers that we have, Volkswagen, and those assembly workers learn how to assemble a door panel of that car. Just every step and every drill bit that they need to place into the drill has the same interaction as they would do in real life. So they can train their training full digitally, and then after 3 runs of training in VR, they're able to work on the real assembly line there. So that really replaces physical trainings environments for them. So saving a lot of costs for our customers at that point.
The number is one more time for me. So you said 3 months of training?
Well, 3 times of training, so 3 runs.
Oh wow! And what is that compared to if they didn't have the SenseGlove solution?
So you would compare it to either normal controllers, which has a less steeper learning curve, so you do more VR trainings, or you compare it to real life training, and obviously that's kind of the same time of training, but then with a way more costly solution.
Yeah. You'd have to have a whole car, like the actual thing, I imagine then. Yeah.
So what they actually replace are dummy training lines.
I see. Very interesting. And it's really exciting to see a company, a brand like Volkswagen adopt this new XR technology. What I guess if there's any other companies that have followed suit, or what's sort of your plan to expand into the market?
Yeah, so as we're dealing with businesses, it's also a kind of a slow-moving process. So the sales cycles of those companies are quite slow in a sense. But what we do, we also rely on people who are actually making the virtual reality content. So what we're building now is just a group of very skilled VR development agencies that learn how to develop with our gloves and those also have like their specialism. So like the ones we used with we work with Volkswagen are really focused on automotive, but you have other development agencies that are experts in creating of medical training. So that's the way how we actually build our sales channels. And we don't have to be experts in medical. We don't have to be experts in oil and gas. The community of developers has their own expertise. And the only thing that we need to make sure is that they're experts in developing for haptics. And yeah, that's why we create also like tools that make it very, very easy to create your haptic experiences in Unity or in Unreal. It's just like implementing a controller, but you're basically integrating a whole robot into your scene, because that's what our gloves are.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I love that mentality, and just sort of that principle of, we don't have to do everything ourselves. There's a lot of very talented companies and partners that we can partner with and leverage their expertise and their help to together, build, something even greater. Yeah, I guess I'd love to learn a little bit more about the various use cases. Declan, you mentioned earlier the use cases of couples, right? And then you pivoted to embedding in software. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? What are the software applications, the companies? How does it work?
Yeah. So we've seen a multitude of use cases benefit from using the cloud streaming technology. There's a couple different value props from using the tech. One of them is just the collaborative aspect. So being able to essentially screen share something, but allow everyone to control that screen share has been really beneficial for products that, for instance, offer remote learning tools. When you're teaching someone, we found, and this is something we learned kind of working with various companies, when you're teaching someone, it's beneficial for both the learner and the teacher to be able to allow the student or the trainee to be able to actually interact with the content or some sort of activity, because one, they end up remembering what they're learning a lot better, and secondly, it allows the teacher to also gauge how much the student or the trainee knows, because in a lecture style, it's very hard to really understand how much the student is understanding the content without asking them questions or actually having them have to do something and code something up maybe, or try to play a game and actually see how they're doing and see how much they understand. So that's been one use case that has been really interesting, and one value proposition is that collaborative aspect. The second is actually the second value prop is actually the aspect of just being able to embed really anything anywhere. So sometimes, especially with XR devices right now, there are certain constraints like compute and bandwidth that would essentially disallow you from being able to run like pretty intensive applications inside of a metaverse. It would just drain the battery. A lot of times, like the compute power is just not enough. But when you're cloud streaming that tech over, all you have to handle is like a video feed. And so that's also where we see a lot of metaverse companies getting value, is being able to embed even like graphically intensive applications within the metaverse, which is already graphically intensive.
And I want to jump in there because
yeah.
I think one of my first
Yeah.
questions was the latency. I've tried Hyperbeam and it is very low latency. So yeah, it's perfect for metaverse use and yeah, application use. But sorry, please continue.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so we find those are two primary value props. And there's a ton of like small edge cases where this ends up being really valuable as well. Anything from remote work and collaboration to even single player use cases, funny enough, because of the embed value prop. So yeah.
Yeah, and you were talking about the interactive learning earlier, and I was seeing a lot of head nodding over here. Did you have experience with interactive learning and training at Sense Club? Did you? I'm curious if you wanted to comment on any of that.
Yeah, of course. That's like 90% of our use cases, and also a lot of multiplayer nowadays. So also the and I think also that's interesting to the proposition of Jill. where you have like a student-teacher relationship, where most of the times the teachers are not per se tech savvy, so they just are like 2D, or in our case now in the new virtual environments that we create, also 3D, because we make a 3D image out of them, and they're kind of streamed into the virtual training setting, and so you can create indeed a multiplayer or immersive interaction with like old style teachers and new style learners, so that they get like a full VR experience where the teacher's just in front of a webcam like we are now.
Absolutely. No, I love how you put that. Yeah, and being able to accommodate the various styles is very important as well. Jill, I love to hear about the use cases that you found, and also how do you then what's your measure of success, your success metric? Like how do you know the experience has been enhanced by this full or the results that you may be seeing in the various applications, the use cases?
Okay. Well, I mean, I think like, volumetric video capture studios kind of exist now for kind of capturing, 3D people in 3D, but they're really, really expensive and really inaccessible. So the key thing for us is to say, can we kind of democratize access so that way more people can create content that has this 3D immersive video by making it easy for the creators to be able to create and to share. And so we have our own kind of capture app for iPhone, the modern iPhones that have a LiDAR sensor, or we can work with the Connect DK sensors. And then basically with one or more of those sensors that, regular people who are, especially people who come from the video creation background, allowing them to kind of extend and be able to also do, make a 3D video that gives the viewers this ability to navigate. And so we have our own, application for capture and our own platform, a cloud-based platform to kind of do the content preparation, hosting, and then for streaming playback. Or we have APIs and SDKs. So if companies want to incorporate the technology within their own product offerings. But I think the key metric is kind of how much content is being created and how much people are actually are watching it. That's the key thing.
Yeah.
One interesting thing we've learned actually is that some of the content creators, especially that come from the regular video background, they want to have a 3D effect, but they want them as the creator to control the navigation rather than enabling the viewer to do the navigation, right? So we really think about it, the whole metaverse or this and that the viewer is in control, but some of these creators actually themselves want to be in control of the navigation and still output an ordinary 2D video. So that's actually been one of our learnings, is to build some things to help enable that use case to be simpler. And then it allows kind of distribution, and then just the order, more of a lean back viewing experience than that lean in, viewer controlled navigation. So we think both are very interesting.
My thought with that is it's cinematography. It's
right.
You never, if you had a good scene with the actors or even filming a movie, but your camera was in the wrong place, you don't have to worry about that anymore. You don't have to redo the take. That's money, that's time, that's a whole crew there, and that's the actors, and that's art. You might not get the same, as good of a take, but with this, you can, in editing, play with the angle and the storytelling, and you can even tell different stories with the same scene. It just opens up a whole new world in terms of filming. I love what you said earlier about democratizing. Holy cow! Like an iPhone. Just with an iPhone, you don't need a whole camera crew. You don't need expensive, 3D filming equipment. Or this giant setup, heavy setup. It's just an iPhone. That's absolutely amazing. I'm curious, through sort of the regular people, what kind of type of content is being generated, or do you see people really excelling at?
I think it's like just more individual creators. So a little bit is even kind of more like the kind of TikTok user type. space of that, here's someone who wants to show, they're singing or they're dancing or doing like a cooking kind of demonstration, etc. Those are some of the kind of where someone wants to kind of show something, demonstrate them what they are doing to others.
Very cool. Okay, yeah. And as you said, dancing and cooking, I could totally see where you want to see it from a different angle, right? For educational purposes or for entertainment purposes. Yeah, and then the TikTok economy is huge. So I totally see that market. I guess I would love to hear from each of you. What is your vision for the future of XR, the metaverse, and what role do you want your company and your work to play in it? Whoever wants to jump on that first.
Well, can I jump first, even though I
Go for
spoke?
it,
I mean, I think the key thing is, again, comes back to this democratizing of access, right? That I want a metaverse where individuals can create content that lives in it and not just be consuming something that is created by the big businesses and the big brands, but allowing people to kind of have their own little corner of the universe that they have put their own content in.
Yeah, and as a metaverse platform creator and a metaverse lover, I appreciate that. So often, big companies like to, make everything private or proprietary. But the metaverse is the internet. It's the world. It's connecting everybody together. And yeah, I think a lot of people can appreciate what you're doing. Your vision for XR and the role you wish to play in it. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I
Go
think
for it.
from the vision that we all have is that computing will become from 2D to 3D. And in my point, that's kind of a mix between VR, AR, pass through as we see now. But in some way, we will be moving away from our 2D screens, looking at our smartphone, looking at our laptops, and things will become 3D. And then you want interaction that matches to that 3D vision that you have. And that's what the technology that we built. So we're kind of building the mouse and keyboard of the future way of computing. That is how we see haptics moving forward into the metaverse or the 3D computing world of the next decade.
Very cool. Declan?
Yeah. So on that same note, I think one of the reasons, of many, but one of the reasons why this movement is happening from 2D to 3D is because it's a lot more natural to experience certain things in 3D. I mean, that's the world we live in. I don't think anyone's kidding themselves when they say like, a Zoom call, is as good as like an in-person meeting, because it's not. That's why we still have, in-person work and like in-person, social interaction. But I do see there becoming new ways to build social relationships and nurture those relationships with other people, with the metaverse and with XR technology. And, I do hope it gets to a point where, you can nurture relationships just as well as you would in person, if not even better. And my hope for Hyperbeam is that we can power the infrastructure that allows companies to build products that allow people to nurture those relationships.
Very cool. I love how you put that, and I very much feel the same with Venue here. I think we can bring everything that the world has to offer into the comfort, convenience, and safety of your own living room. And a lot of times, enterprise is what pushes new tech out first. People maybe go to an event and use it for work. Go to use XR or Metaverse for business, and they go, "Wow, this is really cool! I got a headset." Now, I gave it to my kids, and now, they're playing games on it, and now we have that social consumer market. And so, I think that is where it's headed. That if I didn't have to travel or drive or fly, I wouldn't. If I could do more conveniently and with less time and more optimized, and meet the right people I want to meet, to either get work done or socialize, I would do that. I would do that in the metaverse. So yeah, very cool. So last question, lightning rounds down the line here. Who should come talk to you at this conference? What type of business opportunities you're offering, you're seeking, and what's the best way to reach you? Declan.
Yeah, so anyone that is building a metaverse and wants to add any kind of flat app to their 3D world, yeah, definitely reach out. You can reach us at founders@hyperbeam.com, or just visit our landing page and book a meeting directly from there.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right, so creators who want to create this immersive 3D content, and then companies that would want to kind of incorporate within their spaces. We offer our SDKs and APIs who want to incorporate it into their offerings. And you can just email me at jill.boyce@vermerse.net.
Awesome.
And for me, if you're a developer, VR developer, a development agency that wants to get the next step of VR haptics into your trainings, then it's time to reach out to me. Or if you're a company that wants to save on physical assets with virtual training, then yeah, reach out to Sense Club. Go to senseclub.com or send me an email at gijs@senseclub.com.
Awesome, thank you. And if you wish to acquire customers, investors, or engage your existing community with Metaverse events, come talk to me. All right, and that concludes our panel. Thank you to all our speakers for a wonderful panel. Learned a lot and very, very excited about the future of the Metaverse. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Yes,
Nice
and
meeting
the
you all.
recording is done.